Tucked away in a quiet valley is a hidden gem of a rewilding project. 35 years ago, it was a conventionally managed farm, just like the surrounding landscape, focused on maximum output, which very often came at the cost of the land itself, along with all of the creatures that live within it. And so, over the past few decades, its lifelong custodian, Nick, has guided the land on a journey of recovery, of reimagination. And this isn't your classic passive rewilding approach, just leaving the land to do its thing. While that is evident in some places, this project demonstrates experimenting, a willingness to use animals and people to not only grow an abundance of food, but also an abundance of opportunities for nature along the way too. Oh, and there's also a beautiful retreat hideaway known as the Ark, which one can fully immerse themselves within. This is Leewood, and it's within the Walkham Valley, Dartmoor, Devon. As we've seen on previous videos, Dartmoor is a land of immense opportunity, and what's happening here at Leewood provides us with some ideas on what we can do differently upon the wider landscape. When we came here earlier on, I was treated to brunch, which was delicious. Lots of wonderful food coming out of here. Nick grew up at Leewood, and for much of her life she saw it managed as a conventional farm of the time. Overgrazed, kept tidy, with a mix of animals.
There was sort of a life-changing event for me, which made me realise how much we had been dumbing down the landscape. We'd had to destock because I'd had 3 children under a year old, and we were very much concentrating on just staying, rearing those kids and not mucking about with farm animals. And the land had a rest for the first time in probably 100 years. I was out for a walk, and I saw this patch of purple. I thought it was a plastic bag that had blown in, so I went over to it, and it was a patch of early purple flowering orchids. And in that moment, I completely shifted how I approached the land, the responsibility of land ownership, the privilege, and how I wanted to allow that land to express itself.
And today, one of the first parts of Leewood which you encounter when you visit is the food forest. Now, it was mid-October, but this place still held a pretty high level of abundance.
So we talk about layers, and we have our standard tree, and then we'll have shrubs. We've got, in amongst this, you've got to get your eye in, but there's gooseberry bush here, there's blackcurrant, you can see the dahlias, burdock, hugely medicinal plants, which everyone despises because you get that in your clothes and you know about it. But this will have swarms of goldfinches on it, and that's the kind of Christmas tree I want to see. We can get quite doom and gloom about our role now, and we've done a lot of damage, and how we're going to correct that. And for me, our role as a human is to take plants for a walk, is to give plants legs. It might take this lupin 200 years to get its seeds further down the valley. I can take it for a walk, and next year there'll be baby lupins down there.
This is possible for many people to achieve as well, isn't it? We can all be taking plants for a walk, That's a really wonderful way of putting it. Oh, these look good.
These trees were £6 at Lidl, the ones along this fence. Food forest situation.
It's really nice. Although there weren't any animals there on this visit, cattle, ponies, pigs and sheep have been an important part of the cycles of management that have allowed Leewood to flourish. In the meadows, underfoot was a lush diversity of broadleaf plants, not one single grass species which we've become so accustomed to seeing. In controlling the density and duration of grazing, Nick has been able to mimic the influence predators have over herbivores in natural systems. You see, in natural systems, herbivores move and do not graze for that long in any one spot. But in the wider landscape, in our agricultural systems, this pressure has been removed. Animals stay out in the land, with their heads down, continually grazing for long periods of time. The result of this is a monoculture of grass that's either overgrazed or left long like purple moorgrass. This is a grass which livestock does not eat, and this dominates many UK uplands.
Yeah, so I sort of judge my land care now on how many birds am I going to keep alive over the winter. Birds and voles for me. I want to create that prey base. I want to see owls. I want to feed owls. We'll walk through and you'll find little hollows, and you'll find 20 of these in a little cache where the voles are up and getting ready for winter, taking them underground. I realised a couple of years ago when I was down here trying to get away from my computer and camping out, I realised we had glowworms still. So yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Leave Curious is our way of showing that there is still hope, that there are places like Leeward and people like Nick who are restoring nature. In all my years of working with nature, first as an ecologist and now making these videos, I've realised that there are so many brilliant restoration efforts and so many wonderful wild places to explore, but they go unheard of, they go underappreciated and underfunded. And so here at Leave Curious, that's what we're solving. We're giving these places, projects and people a voice. If that sounds like something that you'd like to support, then you can by becoming a Leave Curious member. This is a monthly subscription, which can cost as little as a cup of coffee. This is a growing community, which is fast becoming the lifeblood of the channel, covering everything from building a team to ensure Leave Curious can go further, to actually getting to these places and telling these stories. So if you're curious, linked on the screen now is a QR code, or you can simply head to the link in the description or comments of this video. Thank you. A big part of Leeward is the River Walkham, which flows right alongside the boundary. Not only is this beautiful for freshwater swimming, it's also heavily informed management.
The whole flooding of our land was it was like a disaster for us. It was, oh, the river's up and it's, crashed through this and it's knocked down that. So it was always like a negative thing. And once I got to understand, we actually lived on a floodplain.
Yeah.
That land had a job to do. It needed to flood. And so all the things that we were doing in terms of really grazing it very tight and only having grass meant that the water couldn't absorb in.
But since more structure and diversity has been established through regenerative grazing, during these periods where the river stretches itself, the land is far more resilient and actually able to hold and benefit from such events, retaining the water. But perhaps the most ingenuitive method Nick has used here, and in relation to water, was using pigs to dig a stream. From old maps, she identified a ghost pond and wanted to reinstate it. So, using temporary electric fencing, she guided pigs that rootled and dug a stream toward it.
So I took them from the source of the water to the bend up there, and they decided how this was going to go. So if you concentrate pigs, they will dig and dig and dig. So all this desire to get water off the land as fast as possible has kind of got us where we are now. And so we have to flip that in our heads and think, how do I keep that water on this land as long as possible?
It became clear that Nick loved all plants, but there was one tree which she valued highly, and that's willow. You've got it. There's no reason why a beaver can't, in an ecological capacity.
You can imagine what the beavers can do in here. They will excavate, they will dig deep ponds, so they'll be damming up here, they'll be coppicing these willow, and that's the thing, as a landowner, the fear of this animal coming on to the land and chopping down trees is a real fear, because I've looked after these trees and stopped things eating them for years, and then suddenly I've actually got to hand it over to the beavers, because without doubt the beavers know best.
Now, bracken is an interesting plant, mostly due to how people perceive it as a native invasive. You can see it here, forming these dominant brown patches. But Nick explained to me that bracken isn't necessarily a plant that we should be battling to remove, instead looking to use it as part of the way that we manage the land.
Bracken is a plant that is very, very high in potassium. What likes potassium? Strawberries, tomatoes, and look, I'm kicking back the very dense bracken, and the only thing that's surviving, and surviving perfectly well, is strawberries. So I've just started with the livestock, and I've just literally run them round here.
Yeah.
Run them round in a few circles just to get the bracken onto the floor, because I want to, as much as we've come to despise this plant, we've dramatically reduced the amount of organic matter in the soil. And what is bracken if not a huge amount of organic matter that is prepared to stick itself up, get dried out, and be absorbed back into the soil. So I'm going to build soil. I'm using bracken to build soil, and I'm using bracken to shift away from grass and into the broadleafs. And where's the, yeah, so look behind you. So again, this has only been on the floor for a week, and look how fast this sorrel is recovering. Totally get that people think I'm a crank, but these plants are telling us something, and they're always trying to do what's best for us on a planetary scale. And we might not be able to appreciate that because of our just little time window that we're looking at this from. But if we can understand the plant a bit more and play them to their strengths, then I think we have a very interesting way of approaching things.
And to be amongst the nature at Leawood, I would sleep in a bin bag. But thankfully, you don't have to, because there is a fantastically designed glamping tent, kitted out with all of the essentials, and it's just beautifully designed so you can immerse yourself in this amazing place. I'm not staying here, unfortunately, this time, but Olivia and I are going to come back here and do a romantic retreat, which is what you like to do here, isn't it, Nick? I've done all kinds of glamping, and sometimes you come into these places and there's damp and there's cobwebs, and no, this is really pretty. If you'd like to visit and see this place for yourself, you will find a link to book in the description of the video. If you have enjoyed this video and you want to support the channel, then please do become a Leave Curious member. It's linked on the screen now, along with the video if you'd like to keep watching. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Leave Curious.